Hi YouTube, I'm a Korean guy who's been playing Artillerist for about a year and a half. You can call me Avix as my YouTube account, or Chris, or whatever you want. So I once uploaded a video in Korean language about how to play Specialization or Barrage Artillerist, and someone in the comment section has told me that my video was posted on Reddit and the guy who posted my video had a hard time decrypting my video through auto-generated subtitles since he or she doesn't speak Korean. So, respect. Anyway, I thought, why not just make an updated guide in English? I'm just a Korean guy who learned English in school and watched a lot of movies in English, so I might not be fluent enough and some of the terms I use might sound awkward to English speakers, so please understand. My tongue is twisting when I pronounce Specialization Artillerist, so let me just call it Spec RD. So what is Spec RD and why Spec RD? There are two main builds for RT. One is Swiftness Crit RT, which is basically spamming your normal skills, and by normal skills I'm referring to non-barrage mode skills. You max Swiftness and only get crit from your necklace. Maybe one additional ring or earpiece for crit is fine, but your primary stat has to be Swiftness, because Swiftness is the most efficient stat to increase your DPS through normal skills. You have a very fast cooldown, so you don't have time to use barrage mode skills, unless you cannot avoid enemy attack, and the only way to survive is use barrage mode and shield skill. Swiftness RD is very mobile, easy to play, reliable, and very good at stagger mechanics. And the other main build is obviously Spec RD. You max Specialization, and additional stat from necklace goes to either crit or swift. Spec RD is slow, hard to play, annoying, but it is one of the best classes in Lost Ark in terms of DPS. Why? Because your barrage skill damages increase so much from Specialization stat. This is Korean client, but let me translate for you guys. First line tells you that barrage mode skill damage is increased by 131%. Second line tells you that firepower efficiency increased by 184%. And if you do the math, it increases barrage mode damage by 328%. So this makes whole lot of difference in damage proportion of each skills. In spec build, barrage mode skill take about 60% of your whole damage, and I'm being conservative. In fact, when you're fighting the real boss, it is very easy to be interrupted, so there's a high chance that you cannot use normal skills in the right time. Then, the damage proportion of barrage mode becomes 70 or 80% in real raids. Some people might have questions like, if Specialization increases firepower efficiency, it affects normal skills too. So, why not, instead of max spec, just get like 700 spec and some swift and spam normal skills like Swift RD. I read on the Reddit comment that someone maxed Swift and got spec from necklace. I can guarantee that in current version that is not an optimal build. Firepower efficiency looks great, but you have to understand that with 0 spec, you still have 30% damage increase in firepower level 3. What firepower efficiency does is that they increase this 30% by a certain number. So for example, I have 1835 spec, and when I'm in firepower level 3, it increases my normal skill damage by 85.1%. That seems huge, but considering that even 0 spec can get you a 30% increase, this 1835 spec only increases your damage by 42.4%. Now, if you get 1835 Swift instead of spec, you get 39.3% CDR. That means your cooldown is 60.7% and it increases your DPS by 64.8%. So 42.4% versus 64.8%. I know it is boring, but when I make a guide or help my friends play Spec RD, I always try to tell this because you have to understand that specialization is not a valuable stat for your normal skills. 1835 spec increases your normal damage by 42.4%, and it increases your barrage mode damage by 229%. So it is only valuable if you try to use barrage mode as often as possible. And if you do that, you don't have enough time to spam normal skills. That's why you have to max spec and get minimum or zero swift. Basically, what makes difference between two main builds of Artillerist is whether you choose to use your barrage mode or not. If you choose not to use barrage mode, you have plenty of time to spam normal skills. So the optimal stat to increase your DPS is swiftness. And then you get leftover stats to crit, which increases your damage expectation. And that build is called Swift RD. If you choose to use Barrage mode, you have to deal damage in limited time, which is 20 seconds for each rotation. You can use QEWQ or QWEQ on your Barrage mode, and for normal skills, if you get Swift, you get CDR. But still, no matter how high your CDR is, you can only use same skills twice in 20 seconds because most high damage skills have 20 seconds to cool down. So, since Swift does not help your DPS, your optimal stat would be Specialization, which increases your normal skill damage and increases huge amounts of barrage skill damages. The leftover stat from your necklace could be Crit or Swift, and this build is called Spec RD. Okay, so how to play Spec RD? Simply, you charge your firepower, and when your firepower is just below max level, use Homing Barrage, Air Raid, and before your attacks land, use Forward Barrage to reach firepower level 3. Start Barrage mode, QEWQ or QWEQ. Exit Barrage mode, check if your buff is more than 3 seconds left, use Homing Barrage, Air Raid, and multiple rocket is optional. You can summon tower whenever you want, and wait till your firepower is reset to 0, and charge your firepower again, doing the same thing. For skills, tripods, and runes, the two most important skills in playing Spec RD are Forward Barrage and Flamethrower. You must get them to level 10, and you must use wealth runes for both of them. Forward Barrage, firepower control, and quick prep are very important and should be the primary target for improving your tripods. With wealth rune, it charges huge amount of firepower, and Dancing Explosion in level 10 is the tricky part. Some people don't know the importance of Dancing Explosion, but it makes additional explosions on the left and right side of initial flame, and they both charges extra firepower. You don't have to farm high level tripods since it only increases damage, but Dancing Explosion itself is mandatory. In order to hit both extra flames, you have to be really close to enemy. I used to tell my friends that you have to be in kissing range with the boss, and by kissing range, I mean French kiss, you know. Flamethrower, firepower control, obviously, and second tripod is up to you guys. The last tripod, Azure Flame or whatever it has to be pronounced, reduces the time it takes to fully hit the enemy. And since you use Flamethrower just to charge your firepower, not damage, this last tripod is very important. Again, firepower control should be your primary upgrade. Energy Field is a shield skill that not only protects you from damage but also gives you some kind of super armor that makes you immune to knockout attacks. Level 10 is also mandatory. First tripod practically does nothing, so anything you want. Second tripod is up to you, but usually people use energy increase. Upgrading this tripod is also very useful. Third one, Solid Shield, gives you super armor, and it is very helpful when using certain skills that makes you vulnerable while using. Homing Barrage, one of the biggest damage skill beside Barrage mode, so max level is required, guiding enhancement, weak point, power bomb. Air Raid, also decent damage, max level, quick fire, flame, big one. Lightning Barrage used to be better than Flame Barrage, but because of recent update, Flame Barrage gives you better damage expectation. It is not high priority, but if you have runes left, you can use Gale Wind for faster cast. Multiple Rocket Launcher, also recently buffed in KR. Great damage, huge stagger, charges tons of firepower, but kind of controversial. Some people hate this skill because once you start using this skill, you cannot quit unless you use your space to roll out. You have to be really close to enemy in order to give full damage, and it cools down in 24 seconds, which makes it hard to use twice during your 20 seconds of damage buff. Some people choose Napalm Shot or Enhanced Shell rather than Multiple Rocket, but still majority of people are using this skill. So max level is required, Flame Rocket, Quick Barrage, access denied. You can use Gale Wind, Overwhelm, or even another Wealth beside 4 Barrage and Flamethrower. Personally, I prefer Wealth, but Gale Wind is more popular choice. Summon Turret, decent damage skill as well, but the most important part of this skill is Armor Destruction. You already have Armor Destruction on Barrage Mode Q, but in order to consistently debuff the enemy, and in some cases that you might miss your Q, you use Summon Turret as DPS/debuff skill. If you don't have enough skill points, only level 4 with Armor Destruction is fine, and if you have enough, max level is recommended. Also, I mentioned that some people use Enhanced Shell instead of Multiple Rocket Launcher. In that case, because you have Armor Destruction in Enhanced Shell, you use Sub Battery instead of Armor Destruction. So Sub Battery, Enhanced Turret, Laser Turret makes it fully functioning DPS skill. Otherwise, Armor Destruction, Enhanced Turret, Laser Turret, and Bleed Rune is best for Summon Turret. So we now have one more skill to use. Usually in KR people use level 7 Swing for mobility. But you can also choose level 4 Napalm Shot or even Enhanced Shell for Armor Destruction. If you are using Swing, Quick Attack and Advancing Hit is usually the choice. For Napalm, you choose between Target Focus or Weak Point Enhancement according to the enemy. In recent raids in Korea, stagger abilities are not that important compared to Guardian raids or earlier Legion raids. That's why many people choose Swing instead of Napalm. But it is up to you. If you consider stagger mechanics important, Target Focus in Napalm could be very helpful. So these are 8 skills that you use as Spec RD, including some optional skills. But you can put runes to Barrage Mode skills too. For Barrage Mode Q, people usually use Rage. Personally, I prefer Gale Wind, but it is not a popular choice. Barrage Mode W and E both requires Gale Wind. So you're using at least 2 Wealth, 2 Gale Wind, and probably 1 Bleed. For other 3 runes, feel free to test out and make your own setup. Personally, I don't like RNG runes, so I used 3 Wealth, 3 Gale Wind, Bleed, and Overwhelm. Okay, so I've got engravings and detailed explanation about stat setup, but video has been already too long and my voice is starting to crack, so let me finish my video here and continue the guide in the next video. Thank you for watching. Any questions you have, just leave it on comments. Bye!